Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio. I'm here with my partner, attorney Jenn Garrett. Not a doctor, attorney. You are a doctor of law, though, correct? So, attorney
Yes.
Jenn Garrett. So, we have a question for everybody today. The question is, what happens if your planning, your action, and your goals are not working? Because last week we were going over Jenn's book, Move the Ball, and we were discussing how planning and acting and believing in what you are doing and believing that you can accomplish anything you want. What happens if that doesn't work out? And that's the topic of our conversation here on Momentum Monday. Jenn, welcome. I know you're in California today.
Yes. It's earlier this morning, but it's ready. It's Monday and it's time to get some momentum.
It's Monday and it's time to get right. I woke up this morning and I said, wow, we have our live Facebook video and I am ready to rock. I have my planner right here next to me. I got 1,000 things going on. It was a seminar this weekend. I'm looking forward to our talks on Monday. And I woke up and I was like, let's go. I didn't have any coffee yet and I'm ready to go. So, so thank you for Momentum Monday.
Yes. Well, I did have some coffee. It's a little bit earlier, so I needed some coffee to get me going. But that's
It is
okay.
a little bit earlier in California. It's all good. So I think this happens a lot to people, that they plan, they start acting, they have their goals, and then they hit what we call the brick wall, if you will. What do we do with that?
Well, I'm going to say, you mentioned that it happens to a lot of people. I'm going to say it's happened to pretty much all of us this year.
Right.
With coronavirus. We've had a plan.
Right.
With January, people set their New Year's resolutions, they set their goals, they're gung-ho, they're ready to execute. And then end of February, all this craziness started happening. March, the world shuts down. So I would be surprised if there were a number of people that's plan didn't kind of go in a different direction because of what happened.
So what are some steps, or what are some, well, before we get into the steps, coronavirus, COVID, it really put a hurting on the world, like you said. And sometimes in life, as we would say, life happens. Take us through some steps and take us through the process of how do we move the ball when life happens and we need to pivot? Sure.
Well, you mentioned planned, act, believe. Well, you have to keep true to that third part. The believe is absolutely important, and staying committed to whatever it is you're looking to do. And maybe you pivot, but then you're committed to that pivot, right? And so it's always believing that you can and that you will overcome whatever is thrown in front of you. And so that's the first step, is to never lose faith in yourself and kind of what your why is and your purpose. I'd say the second is then you have to assess your plan. Right? You can't control everything that's going around you. So look at your plan and see how you have to make adjustments because of what's going on in the macro and maybe the micro environment. And that's true in business. That's true in your life. And so you just need to always be aware of, we're going to talk about move the ball in the book. And so in the book, I analogize you to being on the football field. You have to know what the landscape on that field looks like. Right? Who are the defenders? Who are the obstacles? What's being presented in front of you that is prohibiting your forward progress? And then figure out what is your new plan? What adjustments do you need to make so that you can continue? And then once you figure that out, you got to keep on moving. Take action every single day. It's consistent action that's going to get you closer to the goal line. And are all of those plays going to work? No, not necessarily. We see that in football. It's not about hitting the mark on every single play. It's about taking action. Hopefully you do, but if you stumble and you fall, that's okay. You just pick yourself back up, figure out what the next play is going to be, and you keep moving.
I love that part about assessing or reassessing. I think that's very important because, plenty of times in my life where I hit that wall, you had to sit back and you had to take a look at the situation. And they always had pen and paper in hand. Today, it's different. They have laptops. You always have to have pen and paper in hand, and you need to, kind of figure out your stuff, if you will, and where do you need to go. And when you talk about micro and macro, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so macro in the business sense, you've got macro environmental trends, market trends,
Mm-hmm.
things like that that are affecting the general market landscape. Micro trends are more things that are smaller scale, but that may be affecting your business specifically. Same thing in your life. We've got, the macro environment, the political, the economic, the
Mm-hmm.
social climate, right? But not all of that may be something that affects you. Some of it will. And then, what things in your life are affecting you. Micro is more tied to you versus, the world at large or the community at large. So what things in your life do you have going on that you need to be mindful of and see how you need to pivot as a result of it?
Right. So just to go over, so having faith, keeping up with your why and with your purpose, assessing what's going on so that you can make a pivot. Is there another step in this?
Um, Trusting the process. You've got to trust
Right.
the process. So today is it's Monday. It's the last day of my Move the Ball podcast for the season, and I did this highlight reel, if you will, of 18 different guests, and one of those guests is a gentleman by the name of Chris Leake. Chris was the quarterback for you football fans, college football fans. Chris
Mm-hmm.
was the college football quarterback that took the Florida Gators to the national
Mm-hmm.
championship in the 2006 season. And one of the things that he shares on our full episode, as well as in this highlight clip that I do, is that you've got to fall in love with the process and trust the process, and don't just be focused on the outcome, but focus on the process part. And when you do the process right, then you're going to get to the outcomes that you ultimately want.
I think that's important is trusting the process, trusting yourself, because with each time you hit the wall, you gain a lot of experience and you learn about yourself. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
And, I'm 58. So going through the Cold War, going through .com, going through 9/11, going through 2008, going through Superstorm Sandy, which any one of those could have knocked out businesses and world events and so forth. But now, after going through those, you follow this process, and you kind of have that been there, done that type of an attitude, and you bring calm to your business, to your home life, and you're able to get through whatever it is you can get through, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And so I think that the more that you go through these types of events, the more confidence you have too, because you're like, okay, I've been through something different. It's not the same, but I've been through events like this and it's going to figure itself out. I just have to stay true to my process,
Mm-hmm.
learn from it, come back to that assessment and a reflection on yourself and what changes do you need to make to your habits as an example to continue to move the ball. But it's absolutely, it's an assessment of not only the landscape, but also of yourself, and look at how you need to adjust and grow to continue to be successful.
Right. You have to take that responsibility. I'm writing down here on my piece of paper. You have to
Mhm.
take that responsibility in order to move the ball forward. And I think for all of our listeners, and I want to thank all of our listeners because we're getting a lot of viewers and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. So I want to thank everybody for that. So making a change is okay. You don't have to be so stringent, right? When you are moving the ball,
Yes.
listen, a draw play is not working. The defense, that middle linebacker sees it every single time. You know what? Play action fake is your next move, right? And you're going to hit somebody 15 to 20 yards over the middle, and they're going to hit pay dirt at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the thing too to remember is you don't have to continue to stick with something if you see that it's not working because people sometimes feel like, well, I got to stick with this because then I'm going to be a failure. I would have failed if I didn't. And it's like, you know what? Cut your losses, right? If that's not the right path, switch it up, do something else. You don't have to stick with it. What's important is you've learned from it and you've used that experience to figure out what new things do I need to do so that I can continue to move the ball to get across the goal line and achieve whatever the goal is. And that's not just in terms of your business, that's in terms of your career, your personal goals, everything.
Everything. And I think for our parents that are listening today, I think this is an important lesson to teach children, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We are, my wife and I are my son's in school, he's 12 years old, and there's a ton of work this year, and he's in seventh grade. and it's just like all, coming down on him. And he's 12 years old and he's like pulling an all-nighter for a test. And I'm like, buddy, this is not where you want to be. You need to change. You need to reassess how you're approaching school, and you need to do things a little bit differently. And so the last 4 or 5 days, he was able to organize, he was able to reassess. We gave him that opportunity to fail and learn from the failure. And he failed yesterday. He and I went for a run, and he was supposed to do some work, and it didn't work out exactly the way that he wanted it to go. And it was a little bit later, he couldn't go and shoot some pucks, and he got very upset, but I let him fail. And he used his, ability to change. I think that's important for children to learn, because I think that may be something that could be missing. It's okay to fail, right? And it's okay to move the ball and change. I love that.
Yeah, and I think we've come in an era, and some people believe that everyone should get a trophy, right? I do not believe that. And I think you need to let kids or adults, anybody, know that not everybody is going to win at everything, because there are so many lessons to learn through failure and through not getting that trophy, right? And so positive reinforcement is great, and you absolutely have to do that. But at the end of the day, you also have to let children fail. You have to let people understand that, hey, I didn't get, I'm not the winner, and it's okay. So let me learn so I can figure out what I need to do so that I can be successful. And those skills are going to take you through all of life.
I love that. It's going to take you through all of life. And I think that that's extremely important to learn for all of our parents. And, I'm not into the participation trophies either. And I remember in Little League, my father was the coach. He played baseball at a pretty high level, and he was our coach. And, I thought I was a shoo-in, Jen, every year for the All-Star team. So for all of my Riccardi brother baseball team, they know what I'm talking about right now. I didn't make the All-Star team one year at third base. And my father just said, you didn't have a good year, buddy, and you didn't put in the effort. And I got really mad at him, and I remember going up to my room, but then a couple hours later, I came down with my glove and I said, let's go in the backyard. What do I need in order to become better? Because I love playing baseball. You're out there with your friends, the sun, the smell of the grass. It was just the most fun that I can ever have. And, it's just the same thing playing football, moving the ball. If you don't make it, it's okay. Learn from that mistake and pivot.
Right. And I think the other thing is, when you don't get that trophy and you learn that, oh, I didn't make it, I wasn't good enough, it forces you to continue to up your game and want to grow and focus on that improvement. And as I was hearing you talk, since this is the final day of the Move the Ball podcast, I was thinking back about another episode with a gentleman by the name of Jedediah Collins. Jedediah played in the NFL for a number of years, bounced from a lot of different teams. And on the episode, he had shared a story about a player he had on his team that was always like trying to do a little bit more. Like he'd be in the weight rooms or try to lift 5 more pounds or something. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, look around. He's like, there are so many people on this team that are younger than me. He's like, I need to continue. If I want to stay here, I've got to continue to be a little bit better, and to stick around, or else he's going to get cut. Right. And I think in professional sports, it's a little bit more competitive. It's not like, you or I, it's not like someone's going to take our job tomorrow if we don't perform today. But in that world, you've got to be on your game all the time or you're gone. And so what that taught Jedediah was, you've got to look to just gain inches every day. If you can just be better by a few inches each and every day, you're going to go far in life.
And that's exactly the lesson that I was conveying, that my wife and I were conveying to our son. Small distinctions, small wins every day can lead to a big win in a week or 2 weeks. You just got to keep at it. And I think that this is another important story. I was listening to, I was at a seminar this weekend, and I was listening to Bo Eason. He was a safety in the NFL, and he got injured, and I believe he was with the Seahawks, and he got signed by San Francisco. And he was telling the story where just this, where you have to overcome and you have to pivot, and sometimes things don't work out. And there's a player on San Francisco during the 80s. You know who I'm talking about, right? And he's a wide receiver, Jerry Rice. And he would say that he was prepared no matter what happened to him. He was always prepared. And Joe Montana during practice fading back, and he would throw a ball to somebody. They're warming up, they're practicing, and he would call it the Pro Bowl glide, where they're just like, they catch the ball and then they would stop. Jerry Rice, right out of the gate, catch the ball. He would run 100 yards into the end zone, and he would run back and he would give the ball to Joe Montana. And he said, Bo said to Jerry, why do you do that? He goes, because it's my responsibility every time I touch the ball to go into the end zone. And if I can't do it, I want to make sure I have the experience to do it every single time. And I have to figure out if it doesn't happen. I was like, wow, that was just like such, being blown away. And, again, that's what your book is about. Move the ball, right?
Yes.
The analogies between life and football, which is, all the time.
Yeah. And you talk about the preparation. I mean, that is so key. It doesn't always go as planned, but you got to prepare, right? You got to keep practicing, keep staying sharp at your skills, whatever that is. You may not be running routes on a football field, but what is your expertise? And you got to stay prepared and sharp in those areas. And I remember another gentleman, JJ Burden, played with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he played with Joe Montana. And so we talked about on the show Joe a little bit. And he said that one thing that always impressed him about Joe was his level of preparation and that continual push. I mean, he was in his 14th season at that point, Joe was, but he was still always looking to better himself, preparing, doing the work, even as, a seasoned veteran. So it doesn't stop. No matter what level you're at, you've got to always continue to put those same habits into practice, prepare, stay sharp, stay focused, and look at how you can get better.
Right. I think that's important. And it goes to what we're saying. If life doesn't turn out, you still have to prepare. And that preparation and that process that Jenn was going over, having faith, assessing, and trusting the process, once you have that, and once you can bring that, inculcate that into your life, I think it's extremely important. And so you can definitely move the ball.
Right.
Jenn,
And I was just going to add to that. I think that it's important to be organized every week. So I would challenge everyone, and I'm hoping that some of you do this already, but every Sunday, what I do is I kind of map out my plan for the week. And I think about, okay, these are the priorities for Monday to get some momentum, and Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. Does everything go as planned? Absolutely not. Right. But at least it's planned out. So that way I've got the playbook, the game plan for what I'm going to do. I'm working to execute it. If things need to shift, then they shift. But at least you can start the week off with intention, start each day off, and you adjust too. So let's say Monday something happened, and so I didn't get a few things done. Well, then you push it through the week and then you reassess. But I start off by planning on Sunday, and then each evening I'm thinking about, okay, how did the day go, and what do I need to do tomorrow? What shifts do I have to make if things didn't get done, and that kind of thing. And
I think that's important also in discussing at the end of the night. Take a look at, what were the accomplishments? What can you do to, be better? Because as a football team, that's what we always did, or any athletic team that we played with, right? You're always saying, okay, what do we need to do to be better? And I think that's extremely important. And if you spend 15 to 20 minutes, I mean, you don't have to watch TV, right? You could spend 15 to 20 minutes. That small distinction could be very, very powerful for an individual, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, if you spend that time planning, you're going to be so much more productive in the week because you've mapped out your priorities, and then you've also identified to yourself what are not the priorities. So you're more mindful of, I'm not going to work on this because it's not important right now.
Right. 100%. So Jenn, we're coming to the end of our time for this session version of Momentum Monday. Until next week, we'll have some more pearls for everybody. Is there anything else you want to leave our viewing audience?
I guess I'll say, and I mentioned this last week too, but we're in the fourth quarter now. And so, as we've seen in sports and football teams, they make their fourth quarter comebacks. It's time for us to make a comeback for 2020. First three quarters, what's happened has happened. Many, I'm sure, are not pleased with what has happened. Some are like, yeah, I've taken advantage of it and found the opportunities, and that's great. But many are still struggling, and whatever's happened in the first three quarters, we don't allow that to be an excuse for what we need to do in the fourth quarter. I mean, football teams don't do that. Other sports teams don't do that. It's about focusing on finishing in a way that is strong. And even if you don't accomplish everything that you want. I mean, I was watching football this weekend. Chicago Bears lost to the Indianapolis Colts, and but they were playing till the end. They were still trying to get one more touchdown in and finish on a positive note. So even if you're not going to get everything that you wanted done this year, let's finish on a positive note, take credit for some of the wins, and keep moving forward.
And keep moving forward, keep moving the ball. You know what? Some of the most gratifying wins are when you're down by, 3 or 4 touchdowns and there's not a lot of time left. And then you just kind of look at your teammates and you look at yourself and you have that resolve to say, we can do this, right? That is very gratifying. So please, I recommend Jenn's book, Move the Ball. Jenn, how can our viewing audience and listening audience purchase the book?
It's on Amazon. So if you just search Move the Ball on Amazon, you'll find a paperback version like you're holding up, Dan. And then there's an audiobook as well and a Kindle version.
Yeah, this is a great book. It is by my bed, and I pick it up. I've read it. I've read the first chapter again a couple of times, moving through the book. So this is a great book. I recommend all of our listening viewers to purchase the book. So Jenn, again, thank you very much. We had another great time. A lot of pearls for individuals. Next week, again, 9:30 a.m. Facebook Live. Okay, right here at Dan Cardellichio. And I have to look into StreamYard because I think I could put it on your Facebook and other places. So we're going to be looking into that to motivate, educate, and inspire a larger audience. But I want to thank everybody. Jenn, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been another great conversation, and let's get some momentum this Monday.
Let's go for it, everybody. Okay, take care now.